The conference room fell dead silent. On the massive screen, government officials watched in real time as their most secure systems crumbled like sandcastles. The person responsible? A 23-year-old woman they had dismissed just hours earlier as probably better suited for data entry. But Maya Chen wasn't done yet. She leaned back in her chair, fingers still dancing across the keyboard, and smiled. "Should I show you the nuclear launch codes next, or would you prefer to see your personal browsing histories? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Maya Chen had always been invisible in plain sight. Growing up in suburban Cleveland, she was the quiet kid who preferred the glow of her computer screen to playground conversations. While other children collected toys, Maya collected programming languages like Pokemon cards. By age 12, she could code in 7 different languages. By 15, she had already reverse-engineered her school's grading system just to understand how it worked, though she never changed her grades. The thrill was in the puzzle, not the prize. Her parents, immigrants who ran a small corner grocery store, viewed computers as expensive calculators. "Maya, stop playing games and help customers," her mother would say, shooing her away from the ancient desktop they kept behind the counter. They meant well, but they couldn't see that Maya wasn't playing games. She was dismantling firewalls, studying network architectures, and teaching herself cybersecurity from forums where she was known only as Silent Storm. College was supposed to be different. Maya enrolled at Ohio State University for computer science, expecting to finally find her tribe. Instead, she encountered Professor Williams during her first programming class. Williams was old school, the type who believed programming was about memorizing syntax rather than creative problem-solving. When Maya submitted an assignment using an elegant algorithm she had developed, Williams accused her of cheating. "Miss Chen," he announced to the entire lecture hall, "this code is far too sophisticated for someone at your level. Perhaps you should consider switching to a more suitable major." The snickers from her male classmates burned worse than the accusation. Maya tried to explain her approach, but Williams had already moved on, dismissing her with a wave of his hand. The pattern repeated itself throughout her academic career. Teaching assistants would question her work. Study group members would assume she was there to take notes rather than contribute solutions. During her junior year, Maya applied for an internship at CyberShield, a prestigious cybersecurity firm. The interview was conducted by 3 middle-aged men in expensive suits, who spent more time asking if she was really sure about pursuing such a challenging field than evaluating her actual skills. "We're looking for candidates with real technical depth," explained Mr. Harrison, the head of recruitment, barely glancing at her portfolio. "Perhaps you'd be more interested in our customer service positions? We have several openings that might be a better fit." Maya left that interview feeling smaller than she had since childhood. But Maya had learned something valuable from years of being underestimated. Invisibility was a superpower. While her classmates competed for attention and recognition, Maya quietly honed her skills in the shadows. She spent nights in the computer lab, long after everyone else had gone home, exploring the deeper corners of network security. She discovered vulnerabilities in the university's systems that would make a cybersecurity expert weep, but she never exploited them. Instead, she documented everything, building an impressive portfolio of security flaws and their potential fixes. Her breakthrough came during her senior year. Maya was working part-time at a small tech startup called Dataflow Solutions, mainly doing what everyone expected, organizing files and running basic diagnostics. The company's main client was losing money to constant system breaches, and their expensive security consultants couldn't identify the source. Maya watched from her corner desk as suited professionals came and went, each claiming they could solve the problem for increasingly ridiculous fees. During her lunch break, Maya decided to take a look at the client's network architecture. What she found made her blood run cold. The security consultants had been looking in all the wrong places. The breach wasn't coming from outside hackers. It was an inside job, executed through a back door that had been carefully hidden in the company's payroll system. Someone with administrative access was selling customer data to competitors. Maya spent 3 days mapping the entire attack vector, tracing digital breadcrumbs that led to a specific employee who had been systematically extracting information for months. She compiled her findings into a comprehensive report, complete with timestamps, IP addresses, and irrefutable evidence. Then she faced a dilemma. How could someone who was barely trusted to organize files present such damning findings? The answer came to her on a Friday afternoon. Dataflow's CEO, Robert Sterling, was having another heated phone call with the client, promising that their latest expensive consultant would surely identify the problem. Maya walked into his office without knocking, something she had never done before. "Mr. Sterling," she said, placing a thick folder on his desk. "I found your data thief." Sterling looked up, clearly annoyed at the interruption. "Maya, I'm in the middle of an important call. Can this wait?" "James Morrison in accounting has been selling customer data for 8 months," Maya continued, ignoring his dismissal. "He's using a backdoor in the payroll system to access encrypted customer files, then selling them to Competitive Analytics Inc. for $5,000 per batch. His next transfer is scheduled for Monday morning at 9:15 a.m. Sterling's phone call fell silent. Maya could hear the client's voice crackling through the speaker, asking if someone had just said they found the thief. Sterling's face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally, dawning realization. "How could you possibly know this?" he whispered. Maya opened the folder and spread out printed screenshots, network logs, and financial records. "Because I've been tracking his digital footprints for 72 hours. Everything you need to prosecute is right here, including bank records showing deposits that correspond exactly with each data theft." What happened next changed Maya's life forever. Sterling immediately called the FBI, who arrived within hours to arrest Morrison. The client not only stayed with Dataflow but signed a 5-year contract extension. Most importantly, word spread through the cybersecurity community about the young woman who had solved in 3 days what experts couldn't crack in 8 months. Job offers started pouring in. But Maya had bigger plans. She wasn't interested in joining another company where she would have to prove herself all over again. Instead, she decided to make a statement that would be impossible to ignore. Maya had heard about an upcoming government cybersecurity conference in Washington, D.C., where top officials would be demonstrating their latest impenetrable security systems. She registered for the conference as an attendee, listing her occupation simply as computer technician. What the organizers didn't know was that Maya had spent the past month studying every public detail about their security infrastructure. She had identified 17 potential vulnerabilities in their network, any one of which could provide access to their entire system. Maya wasn't planning to cause damage. She was planning to teach them a lesson they would never forget. The Marriott Hotel in downtown Washington, D.C., buzzed with the controlled chaos of the National Cybersecurity Summit. Maya arrived on a crisp October morning, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder, and a conference badge that read, "Maya Chen, Computer Technician," clipped to her modest black blazer. Around her, men in expensive suits networked over coffee, their conversations peppered with technical jargon and barely concealed arrogance. The conference hall itself was impressive, a massive auditorium with tiered seating that could hold over 1,000 attendees. The stage featured a curved LED screen that stretched 40 feet across, currently displaying the Department of Defense logo alongside the summit's theme, Fortress America, Unbreachable Digital Defense. Maya found a seat in the middle section, far enough from the stage to avoid attention but close enough to see everything clearly. She opened her laptop and connected to the conference Wi-Fi, a network called CyberSummit_Secure that she had already identified as laughably vulnerable. While other attendees scrolled through social media or checked emails, Maya began her reconnaissance. The morning sessions were exactly what she expected. A parade of government officials and defense contractors taking turns to praise their own security measures. General Patricia Hawkins, Director of Cyber Operations, delivered a particularly confident presentation about the Pentagon's new Quantum Shield defense system. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Hawkins declared, gesturing toward the massive screen, "what you're seeing represents 5 years of development and $2 billion in investment. Our Quantum Shield creates an impenetrable barrier around our most sensitive systems. No external threat can penetrate these defenses." Maya suppressed a smile. She had spent weeks studying the Quantum Shield's publicly available specifications, and she had identified at least 12 ways to bypass it. The system's fatal flaw wasn't in its quantum encryption. That part was actually quite sophisticated. The weakness lay in its human interface, the control panel that administrators use to monitor and adjust the system. During the lunch break, Maya made her move. While hundreds of attendees crowded into the hotel restaurant, she slipped into the conference center's technical booth. The room was filled with servers, monitors, and networking equipment that controlled the summit's audiovisual systems. More importantly, these systems were connected to the same network that the government presenters were using to display their secure demonstrations. Maya plugged a small USB device into one of the servers, not to install malware, but to establish a bridge between her laptop and the conference network. The device, which she had built herself, would allow her to access systems that the presenters would be connecting to during the afternoon sessions. She returned to her seat just as the afternoon program began. The next presenter was Dr. Marcus Webb, Chief Technology Officer of the Department of Homeland Security. Dr. Webb was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who spoke with the absolute certainty of someone who had never been proven wrong. "The demonstration you're about to witness," Dr. Webb announced, "will show you exactly why foreign adversaries have been unable to penetrate our critical infrastructure. We'll be connecting live to our actual defense networks. Not simulations, not test environments, but the real systems that protect America." Maya's heart rate quickened. This was even better than she had hoped. Dr. Webb was about to give her a direct pathway into the Pentagon's network, live and in front of 1,000 witnesses. Dr. Webb's presentation began with a tour of various government databases. He showed immigration records, tax collection systems, and satellite monitoring networks, each time emphasizing their unbreachable security. Maya watched the network traffic on her laptop, mapping the connections and identifying access points. Then, Dr. Webb made his fatal mistake. "Now let me show you our crown jewel," he said, typing commands into his laptop. "This is the Pentagon's Central Command Network, the system that coordinates our global military operations." The screen filled with a complex dashboard showing military bases, troop movements, and communication channels. It was impressive, and it was also completely exposed. Maya could see the authentication protocols, the encryption keys, and most importantly, the administrative backdoors that Dr. Webb was using to navigate the system. Maya's fingers moved across her keyboard with surgical precision. She wasn't trying to cause damage. That would be both illegal and counterproductive. Instead, she was building a bridge into their system, establishing access that she could demonstrate without compromising national security. First, she gained access to the conference network's administrative panel. This allowed her to see every device connected to the Wi-Fi, including Dr. Webb's laptop and the control systems for the auditorium's displays. Next, she traced the connection between Dr. Webb's laptop and the Pentagon network, identifying the specific protocols and authentication methods being used. The breakthrough came when Maya discovered that the Pentagon system was using a legacy authentication protocol that hadn't been updated in 3 years. This protocol had a known vulnerability that cybersecurity researchers had documented extensively, but apparently, no one at the Pentagon had been reading the research papers. Maya crafted her exploit carefully. Rather than attempting to access classified information, she focused on systems that would demonstrate her access without compromising sensitive data. She identified the Pentagon's internal email system, their conference room booking platform, and their cafeteria menu database, systems that were connected to the main network but contained no classified information. While Dr. Webb continued his presentation, completely unaware of what was happening, Maya established administrative access to all 3 systems. She could now modify emails, book conference rooms, and even change what was being served for lunch at the Pentagon cafeteria. More importantly, she had proven that the impenetrable network could be compromised by a single person with a laptop and an internet connection. Maya waited for the perfect moment. Dr. Webb had just finished explaining how their multi-factor authentication made unauthorized access impossible when Maya decided to make her presence known. She started small. The Pentagon's internal email system suddenly displayed a new message in Dr. Webb's inbox, sent from his own email address. "Security test in progress. Please remain calm." Dr. Webb noticed the email immediately. He frowned, clearly confused about how he could have sent himself a message he didn't remember writing. He deleted the email and continued his presentation, but Maya could see the uncertainty creeping into his voice. Next, Maya accessed the conference room booking system. She reserved every conference room in the Pentagon for the next week, all under the name Anonymous Security Researcher. The bookings appeared instantly on Dr. Webb's dashboard, causing him to pause mid-sentence. "There seems to be some kind of Technical difficulty, Dr. Webb muttered, frantically typing commands to understand what was happening. But Maya wasn't finished. Her final demonstration would be impossible to ignore. She accessed the Pentagon cafeteria's menu system and replaced every item with a single entry. Humble pie, served fresh daily. The change appeared immediately on the live feed that Dr. Webb was sharing with the audience. 1,000 cybersecurity professionals watched as the Pentagon's lunch menu transformed before their eyes. Confused murmurs rippled through the auditorium. Dr. Webb stared at the screen in growing horror. "This is impossible," he whispered, but his microphone picked up every word. "These systems are completely isolated. There's no way anyone could access them remotely." Maya stood up from her seat in the middle of the auditorium. Every head in the room turned toward her as she raised her hand like a student asking a question. "Excuse me, Dr. Webb," she called out, her voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium. "I think I can explain what's happening." The auditorium fell into absolute silence. 1,000 pairs of eyes focused on Maya as she stood calmly in the middle section, her laptop still open in front of her. Dr. Webb's face had drained of all color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "I'm sorry," Dr. Webb stammered into his microphone, "but who exactly are you?" Maya began walking down the aisle toward the stage, her steps echoing in the cavernous space. Security guards near the exits shifted nervously, unsure whether to intervene. "My name is Maya Chen. I'm a computer technician from Cleveland, Ohio. And I've been inside your Pentagon network for the last 23 minutes. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Audience members began talking all at once, their voices creating a rising tide of confusion and disbelief. General Hawkins, who had been watching from the VIP section, stood abruptly and began barking orders into her phone. "That's impossible," Dr. Webb protested, his voice cracking slightly. "Our systems require multi-level authentication, quantum encryption, and—" "Your systems," Maya interrupted, now standing at the foot of the stage, "are using a legacy authentication protocol from 2019. Specifically, you're running modified Kerberos 5.1.7 with SHA-256 hashing, which has a documented vulnerability in its ticket renewal process." She spoke clearly and calmly, as if she were ordering coffee rather than exposing massive security flaws. Dr. Webb's eyes widened. The technical specificity of Maya's statement was impossible to fake. Around the auditorium, cybersecurity professionals who understood the implications began pulling out their phones, some to take notes, others to alert their own organizations. "Furthermore," Maya continued, pulling out her laptop and connecting it to the conference network, "your quantum shield system has a fatal flaw in its administrative interface. The quantum encryption is impressive, but it's completely bypassed when administrators use the web-based control panel, which transmits authentication tokens in plain text over port 8443. General Hawkins had reached the stage, flanked by 2 security officers in dark suits. Her face was stone-cold fury. "Miss Chen, you are under arrest for violating the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Officers, escort her." "Wait," Maya said, holding up one hand. "Before you arrest me, wouldn't you like to know how I'm currently logged into 17 different Pentagon systems? Or would you prefer I demonstrate by accessing something more sensitive?" The threat hung in the air like smoke from a gun. General Hawkins froze mid-gesture, clearly calculating the risks. If Maya was bluffing, calling her out would end this embarrassing situation. But if she wasn't bluffing, escalating could lead to a national security disaster, broadcasted live to 1,000 cybersecurity professionals. Maya didn't wait for an answer. She walked up the steps to the stage, her laptop in hand. Dr. Webb backed away as if she were carrying a live grenade. Maya connected her laptop to the main presentation system, and her screen appeared on the massive display for everyone to see. What the audience saw was a collection of windows showing various Pentagon systems, all clearly displaying Maya's unauthorized access. Email servers, personnel databases, logistics systems. Nothing classified, but enough to prove that their impenetrable defenses had been completely compromised. "I want to be very clear," Maya announced, her voice now amplified through the auditorium's sound system. "I have not accessed any classified information. I have not compromised national security. I have not damaged any systems or stolen any data. What I have done is demonstrate that your security is an illusion." She clicked through several screens, showing the audience exactly how she had gained access. Your conference Wi-Fi network was secured with WPA2 encryption using the password CyberSummit 2024 feet, which, by the way, was publicly posted on your registration website. From there, I accessed the conference's internal network, which is connected to the same infrastructure that Dr. Webb used for his presentation. Dr. Webb sank into a chair at the side of the stage, his head in his hands. General Hawkins remained standing, but Maya could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. "The real vulnerability," Maya continued, "isn't in your technology. It's in your assumptions. You assumed that a young woman registered as a, quote, computer technician couldn't possibly be a threat. You assumed that your legacy systems were secure because they were old and obscure. You assumed that multi-factor authentication would protect you, even though you're using authentication tokens that expire every 6 months instead of every hour." Maya pulled up another screen showing the Pentagon's user access logs. "Right now, I could create new user accounts, modify existing permissions, or lock administrators out of their own systems. I could redirect your emergency communication protocols, change your supply chain orders, or reprogram your facility access controls. And I'm doing all of this from a 5-year-old laptop using nothing but publicly available information and tools that any computer science student could download for free." The auditorium was dead silent except for the frantic clicking of keyboards as security professionals in the audience began checking their own systems. Maya could see the ripple effects spreading through the room. If the Pentagon could be compromised this easily, what did that mean for everyone else? Agent Sarah Morrison from the FBI's Cyber Division had quietly joined General Hawkins on stage. Morrison was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who had been tracking cyber criminals for over a decade. Unlike the military officials, she didn't look angry. She looked fascinated. "Miss Chen," Agent Morrison said, stepping forward, "you're clearly very skilled. But demonstrating vulnerabilities without authorization is still a federal crime. However, I'm more interested in your motivations. Why expose these flaws so publicly? Why not report them through proper channels?" Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Proper channels? I've been trying to break into this industry for 4 years. I've been told I'm not qualified, not experienced enough, not suitable for technical roles. I've watched companies pay millions of dollars to consultants who couldn't solve problems I could fix in my sleep. The proper channels don't work for people like me." She gestured toward the audience. "How many women do you see in this auditorium? How many people under 30? How many people who don't fit the traditional mold of what a cybersecurity expert is supposed to look like? You've created an echo chamber, and now you're surprised when threats come from outside your expectations." General Hawkins finally found her voice. "Miss Chen, regardless of your perspective on industry diversity, you've committed serious crimes today. You've accessed government systems without authorization, demonstrated methods that could be used by hostile actors, and I've done you the biggest favor of your career," Maya interrupted. "Every technique I use today has been documented in academic papers for years. Every vulnerability I exploited has been discussed at security conferences around the world. The only difference is that I actually bothered to test whether you were paying attention. Clearly you weren't." Maya began closing the various system windows on her laptop. "I'm going to disconnect from your systems now. But before I do, I want you to understand something. I'm not unique. There are hundreds of people like me, skilled, motivated, and invisible to your recruitment processes. Some of them work for foreign governments, some of them work for criminal organizations, and some of them are sitting in this auditorium right now taking notes on everything I just showed you." She unplugged her laptop from the presentation system and closed it with a decisive snap. "You can arrest me if you want. You can charge me with whatever crimes make you feel better, but you can't arrest the vulnerabilities in your systems, and you can't prosecute your way out of a security culture that values credentials over competence." Agent Morrison and General Hawkins exchanged a long look. The auditorium remained silent, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Maya stood calmly in the center of the stage, her laptop bag over her shoulder, looking for all the world like she was waiting for a bus, rather than facing potential federal prosecution. "Miss Chen," Agent Morrison said finally, "I think we need to have a longer conversation, but not here and not under arrest. Would you be willing to meet with us privately to discuss Alternative arrangements? The FBI field office in downtown Washington was nothing like Maya had imagined. Instead of the sterile interrogation rooms she'd seen in movies, Agent Morrison led her to a comfortable conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Potomac River. A selection of coffee and pastries sat on a side table, as if this were a business meeting rather than the aftermath of a federal cybercrime. Maya had agreed to the private meeting, but she wasn't naive. Her phone was recording everything, and she had already sent encrypted copies of her Pentagon access logs to 3 different journalists. If she disappeared into the federal system, the story would break within hours. Agent Morrison sat across from her, flanked by 2 other officials Maya hadn't met. To Morrison's left sat Director James Fitzgerald from the National Security Agency, a barrel-chested man with silver hair who looked like he'd stepped out of a Tom Clancy novel. On Morrison's right was Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Deputy Director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, a woman in her 50s, with intelligent eyes, and an expression that suggested she was perpetually solving complex puzzles. "Miss Chen," Director Fitzgerald began, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades in intelligence work, "let's be frank. What you did today constitutes multiple felonies under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. We could prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law and put you in federal prison for 20 years. Maya met his gaze steadily. "You could try, but we both know that prosecuting me would require explaining in open court exactly how a 23-year-old with a 5-year-old laptop compromised the Pentagon's security systems in under 30 minutes. That's not exactly the message you want to send to China, Russia, or North Korea." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "She's right, James. A public trial would be a PR disaster and a national security nightmare. Every hostile actor in the world would be dissecting the court transcripts for vulnerabilities we haven't even discovered yet." Agent Morrison opened a thick folder and spread several documents across the table. "Maya, we've done our homework on you. Ohio State University, graduating summa cum laude with a degree in computer science. Multiple internship applications rejected despite exemplary academic performance. Currently employed part-time at Dataflow Solutions, where you recently identified and helped prosecute an industrial espionage case." She paused, looking directly at Maya. "What we can't figure out is why someone with your obvious talents hasn't been recruited by a major tech company or government agency. Your professors describe you as brilliant but overlooked." Maya laughed bitterly. "Overlooked is a polite way to put it. Professor Williams told me I should consider switching to library science because programming was too challenging for someone like me. The recruiter at CyberShield suggested I might be happier in customer service. The hiring manager at Tech Global spent our entire interview asking if I was sure I could handle the technical demands of cybersecurity work." Director Fitzgerald frowned. "Those sound like discrimination cases waiting to happen." "Discrimination is hard to prove when it's wrapped in polite concern for your own well-being," Maya replied. "Nobody ever said women can't do cybersecurity. They just expressed doubts about whether I personally was cut out for it, whether I had the right temperament, whether I might be more comfortable in a support role." Dr. Rodriguez nodded knowingly. "I've heard variations of that conversation my entire career. The assumption that technical competence must look a certain way, sound a certain way, fit into a certain demographic profile." Agent Morrison pulled out another document. "Maya, we've been authorized to make you an offer. The FBI's Cyber Division has a consulting program for individuals with exceptional skills who might not fit traditional recruitment profiles. You would work on a contract basis, helping us identify vulnerabilities in critical systems before hostile actors can exploit them. Essentially," Director Fitzgerald added, "you'd be doing legally what you did today illegally. Testing our defenses, finding weaknesses, and helping us fix them before they become national security threats." Maya studied the 3 officials carefully. This was the opportunity she had been working toward her entire life, but something felt off. What's the catch? There's always a catch. Dr. Rodriguez exchanged glances with her colleagues before answering. "The catch is that your work would be classified. You couldn't publish papers about your discoveries, couldn't speak at conferences about your methods, couldn't build a public reputation in the cybersecurity community. You'd be invisible again, just invisible on the government's payroll. And," Agent Morrison added, "you'd be subject to extensive background investigations, polygraph examinations, and lifestyle restrictions." Dating someone from certain countries would be problematic. Traveling abroad would require approval. Your social media would be monitored. Maya stood and walked to the window, looking out at the river while she processed the offer. It was exactly what she had wanted. Respect for her skills, challenging work, the chance to make a real difference in national security. But it was also a golden cage, trading one form of invisibility for another. "There's something else you should know," Director Fitzgerald said quietly. "The techniques you use today, we've seen them before. Not exactly the same, but similar approaches targeting different government systems. We believe there's a coordinated effort by foreign intelligence services to probe our cybersecurity defenses using methods that exploit our recruitment blind spots." Maya turned back to face them. "You think foreign governments are specifically recruiting people who don't fit your typical profile because they know you'll underestimate the threat?" "We don't think so," Dr. Rodriguez replied. "We know it. Chinese intelligence has been aggressively recruiting young women with advanced computer skills, specifically targeting those who've been rejected by Western tech companies or government agencies. Russian operatives have been reaching out to cybersecurity professionals from minority backgrounds who feel marginalized by the industry." Agent Morrison opened her laptop and showed Maya a series of recruitment advertisements, all in foreign languages but clearly targeting technical talent. "They're offering these individuals exactly what the American tech industry has denied them: respect, recognition, substantial compensation, and the chance to use their skills on challenging projects." "So you're not just offering me a job," Maya said slowly. "You're trying to prevent me from accepting offers from people who actually value what I can do." Director Fitzgerald's expression hardened. "Miss Chen, I want to be very clear about something. What you demonstrated today was impressive, but it was also reckless. You've just shown a room full of cybersecurity professionals exactly how to penetrate Pentagon systems. Some of those people work for foreign governments. Others work for criminal organizations. You may have just handed our enemies a roadmap to our most sensitive networks." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. In her anger and frustration, had she compromised national security to make a point about gender bias? "I was careful to only access non-classified systems. I didn't reveal any actual secrets." "You revealed something more valuable than secrets," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. "You revealed methodology. You showed them that our defenses have systematic weaknesses that can be exploited by someone with the right skills and the right approach. That knowledge is worth more than any individual classified document." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Maya had wanted to prove that she belonged in the cybersecurity world, but she might have endangered the very systems she was trying to protect. Agent Morrison leaned forward. "Maya, we need your help, not just as a contractor, but as someone who understands how foreign intelligence services might approach recruiting people like you. We need to know what appeals they might make, what weaknesses in our system they might exploit, and how we can build better defenses against social engineering attacks that target our own recruitment failures." Maya returned to her seat, her mind racing. "You want me to help you understand how to recruit and retain the people you've been systematically excluding. We want you to help us fix a national security vulnerability that we didn't even know existed until today," Director Fitzgerald replied. "The vulnerability isn't in our computers, Maya. It's in our culture." Maya walked through downtown Cleveland's public square, her mind churning with the events of the past week. The government officials had given her 72 hours to consider their offer, and the deadline was approaching fast. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from journalists, job recruiters, and cybersecurity professionals who had seen footage of her Pentagon demonstration. Some praised her brilliance, others condemned her recklessness. A few offered her jobs that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. But those weren't the messages that worried her. Hidden among the legitimate contacts were 3 carefully crafted communications that had triggered every alarm bell in her cybersecurity-trained mind. The first came through LinkedIn from a recruiter claiming to represent a, quote, boutique technology consulting firm based in Singapore. The second arrived via encrypted email from someone identifying themselves as a researcher at a European cybersecurity institute. The third was the most sophisticated, a job offer from what appeared to be a legitimate American startup, complete with a corporate website, employee profiles, and venture capital backing. Maya had spent hours investigating all 3 communications. The Singapore firm existed, but its ownership structure led through a maze of shell companies, ultimately controlled by entities with ties to Chinese intelligence. The European Institute was real, But the specific researcher who contacted her didn't appear in any academic databases or conference proceedings. The American startup was the most elaborate deception. Everything about it was authentic, except for the fact that it had been incorporated just 3 days after her Pentagon demonstration. Dr. Rodriguez was right. Foreign intelligence services were already moving to recruit her. Maya entered her apartment building, a converted warehouse in Cleveland's Arts District that she shared with 3 roommates. The space was affordable, if not luxurious, with exposed brick walls and industrial fixtures that gave it character. Her room was spartanly furnished, but dominated by an impressive collection of computer equipment, multiple monitors, custom-built servers, and networking gear that she had assembled over years of careful budgeting. She powered up her main workstation and opened an encrypted communication channel that Agent Morrison had provided. Within minutes, Morrison's face appeared on her screen via secure video call. "Maya, you look troubled. I take it you've been thinking about our conversation." "I've been thinking about a lot of things," Maya replied, "including the 3 recruitment attempts I've received since leaving Washington." "You were right about foreign intelligence services moving quickly." Morrison's expression sharpened. "Tell me about these contacts." Maya shared her screen and walked Morrison through her analysis of the 3 suspicious recruitment attempts. Morrison took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions about technical details or requesting screenshots of the communications. "This is exactly what we were afraid of," Morrison said when Maya finished her presentation. "The Singapore connection is particularly concerning. That shell company structure has been linked to at least 6 successful recruitment operations targeting American tech workers. You've just helped us identify a new front organization." Maya leaned back in her chair. "Sarah, can I call you Sarah? I need to ask you something directly. Is your job offer real, or am I just another recruitment target for you?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "That's a fair question, and you deserve an honest answer. Yes, we genuinely want your skills and expertise. But you're also right that you represent a valuable intelligence asset that we can't afford to lose to hostile actors. So our motivations aren't entirely pure." "At least you're honest about it," Maya said, "but I need to understand something else. If I work for you, will I become part of the problem? Do I become another voice telling young women and minorities that they need to prove themselves by working in secret, invisible roles where their contributions can't be recognized?" Morrison considered this carefully. "I won't lie to you. Classified work does require sacrificing public recognition, but consider the alternative. If you don't help us fix these systemic problems, who will? The same people who created them in the first place?" Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed her mother's number, and Maya realized she hadn't spoken to her parents since the Pentagon incident became public. She declined the call, but it reminded her of another complication. "There's something else," Maya said. "My parents have been getting strange phone calls. People claiming to be reporters who ask very specific questions about my childhood, my political views, my friends. The questions feel more like a background investigation than journalism." Morrison's face hardened. "Maya, this is serious. Foreign intelligence services often target family members as leverage or information sources. Have your parents mentioned anything unusual? Anyone following them? Strange visitors to their store? Unusual customers asking personal questions?" Maya felt a chill of fear. In her determination to prove herself, had she put her family at risk? "I need to call them, right now." "Use this secure line," Morrison said, providing Maya with a special number. "And Maya? Don't mention anything about our conversations, but ask them to be very careful about sharing personal information with strangers." Maya called her parents using the secure line Morrison had provided. Her mother answered on the second ring, her voice tight with worry. "Maya, we've been so concerned. These reporters keep calling, and there are strange people coming to the store asking questions about you. Your father thinks we should close early and stay home." "Mom, listen to me carefully," Maya said. "Don't talk to any reporters or strangers about me, okay? Don't give them any information about where I live, who I know, or anything about our family. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, call the police immediately." "Maya, what have you gotten yourself into? The news says you hacked the Pentagon. Are you in trouble with the government?" Maya chose her words carefully. "I exposed some security problems that needed to be fixed. The government isn't happy about how I did it, but I'm not in trouble. Just please be careful about talking to strangers." After ending the call, Maya stared at her reflection in her computer monitor. The excitement of proving her skills was rapidly being overshadowed by the reality of the world she had stumbled into. This wasn't just about gender bias and tech hiring anymore. She had become a piece on a geopolitical chessboard, where the stakes included national security and her family's safety. Morrison was still on the video call, watching Maya process the implications. "Maya, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to understand that you're already in this game whether you choose to work with us or not. The only question is whether you want to be a player or a pawn." Maya stood and walked to her window, looking out at the Cleveland skyline. A year ago, her biggest worry had been paying rent and finding a job that would use her skills. Now she was weighing offers from government agencies and dodging recruitment attempts from foreign intelligence services. "If I agree to work with you," Maya said finally, "I want guarantees about my family's safety. I want regular updates about any threats or suspicious activity. And I want the authority to help design better recruitment and retention programs that don't exclude qualified candidates because they don't fit traditional profiles." "Done," Morrison replied without hesitation. "But I need a decision soon. Every day you wait, more hostile actors become aware of your capabilities and your potential vulnerability." Maya turned back to her computer. "There's one more thing I need to do first. I want to test something." She opened a new terminal window and began typing commands. Within minutes, she had accessed the conference network from the Cybersecurity Summit, the same network she had used to demonstrate Pentagon vulnerabilities. But this time, she wasn't looking for government systems. "Maya, what are you doing?" Morrison asked, concern evident in her voice. "I'm checking something," Maya replied, her fingers flying across the keyboard. If foreign intelligence services are really monitoring that conference, they might have left traces. What Maya found made her blood run cold. Hidden in the conference network's logs were connection attempts from IP addresses registered to known intelligence front organizations. Not only had foreign agents been monitoring the conference, but they had been specifically tracking the network traffic associated with her demonstration. "Sarah," Maya said quietly, "they weren't just watching the conference, they were watching me. They recorded everything I did, every technique I used, every vulnerability I exposed." Morrison leaned closer to her camera. "Maya, you need to accept our protection. Now. Not in 72 hours, not tomorrow, tonight." Maya looked around her apartment, at the life she had built in Cleveland, at the computer setup that represented years of careful investment and learning. In a few hours, everything would change. She would become part of the shadow world of intelligence and counterintelligence, trading her quiet anonymity for a different kind of invisibility. But as she thought about her parents fielding suspicious phone calls and strange visitors, about the foreign agents who were already studying her methods, about the systematic biases that had nearly driven her into their arms, Maya realized she had already made her choice. "All right," she said to Morrison, "but we do this my way." 6 months later, Maya stood in a windowless basement facility beneath the FBI's J. Edgar Hoover building, surrounded by technology that made her personal setup look like children's toys. The Cybersecurity Operations Center hummed with quiet intensity, dozens of analysts monitoring threats in real time, their screens displaying network traffic patterns that looked like digital heartbeats of the entire nation's infrastructure. Maya's official title was Special Consultant for Adversarial Recruitment Analysis, but her actual role had evolved far beyond what anyone had initially envisioned. She had become the FBI's secret weapon against foreign intelligence services that were systematically exploiting America's diversity problem in cybersecurity. "Maya, we've got another one," called out Agent Tom Bradley, a former Navy cryptologist who had become her primary partner in the unit. Bradley was everything. Maya wasn't tall, white, male, and traditionally credentialed, but he had quickly recognized her abilities and become one of her strongest advocates. Maya walked over to Bradley's workstation, where he was analyzing a sophisticated phishing campaign. "What's the target profile this time?" "Young Hispanic male, MIT graduate, 3 years at Google before they laid him off last month. Perfect coding skills, but he's been blacklisted from major tech companies after he filed a discrimination complaint against his former manager. Someone calling themselves Tech Opportunities Global reached out offering him a senior developer position in Barcelona." Maya studied the communication threads on Bradley's screen. The recruitment approach was textbook foreign intelligence. identify talented individuals who felt marginalized by American institutions, offer them exactly what they'd been denied domestically, then gradually introduce them to research projects that would ultimately serve hostile interests. Let me guess, Maya said. The Barcelona office doesn't exist. The company is registered through a series of shell corporations, and the research they want him to do involves analyzing network security protocols for, quote, academic purposes. Bradley nodded grimly. Exactly, and he's seriously considering it. Can you blame him? He's been unemployed for 4 months, he's got student loans to pay, and American companies won't return his calls. This was the pattern Maya had helped the FBI identify. Foreign intelligence services weren't just recruiting random individuals. They were specifically targeting people who had been failed by American institutions, offering them the recognition and opportunities that domestic employers had denied them. Maya's phone buzzed with a secure message from Dr. Rodriguez. The text was brief. Conference Room Alpha, urgent briefing, bring your threat assessment files. Maya gathered her materials and headed upstairs to the main FBI building. Conference Room Alpha was reserved for the most sensitive briefings, and Maya's security clearance had been expedited to allow her access to operations that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. Dr. Rodriguez was waiting with a small group that included Agent Morrison, Director Fitzgerald from the NSA, and 2 people Maya didn't recognize. A woman in her 30s wearing Air Force insignia, and an older man in an expensive suit who had the unmistakable bearing of someone from the CIA. Maya, Dr. Rodriguez began without preamble, we have a situation. 3 days ago, a cybersecurity researcher named Kevin Washington published a paper detailing vulnerabilities in military drone communication systems. The research is brilliant, groundbreaking, and completely accurate. It's also a roadmap for anyone who wants to hijack American military drones. Maya frowned. That sounds like legitimate academic research. Exposing vulnerabilities is how we fix them. The Air Force officer, introduced as Colonel Jennifer Hayes, spoke up. Normally, you'd be right, but Mr. Washington didn't submit his research through proper channels for security review. He published it directly to an open-access journal without any coordination with defense contractors or military cybersecurity teams. We now have confirmed intelligence that hostile actors are already working to weaponize his discoveries. The older man from the CIA, identified only as Mr. Patterson, opened a laptop and showed Maya several documents. Maya, this is where your expertise becomes crucial. Kevin Washington graduated from Carnegie Mellon with a PhD in computer science. He applied for positions at 17 defense contractors and was rejected by all of them, often without even getting interviews. Sound familiar? Maya felt a chill of recognition. You think he was deliberately pushed toward publishing this research? We think he was systematically excluded from legitimate channels for contributing to national security, then offered alternative outlets for his expertise, Agent Morrison replied. The journal that published his paper is technically legitimate, but it's funded by organizations with ties to foreign intelligence services. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up Washington's academic record on her tablet. Kevin Washington is brilliant, motivated, and exactly the kind of talent our defense industry should be competing to recruit. Instead, he was shut out because he didn't fit the traditional profile. He came from a community college background, he had a non-traditional career path before graduate school, and he didn't have the social connections that usually open doors in defense contracting. Maya studied Washington's photo and background information. She saw herself reflected in his story. Exceptional talent that had been systematically overlooked until it became a national security threat. What do you want me to do? Maya asked. Colonel Hayes leaned forward. We want you to make contact with Dr. Washington, not as an FBI consultant, but as someone who understands what he's experienced. We need to know if he was deliberately manipulated into publishing this research, and we need to prevent him from sharing additional discoveries with the wrong people. Mr. Patterson added, Maya, we've identified at least 12 other researchers in similar situations. Highly skilled individuals who've been excluded from traditional defense work and are now being courted by organizations with questionable funding sources. We need your help to understand their recruitment methods and develop counter-strategies. Maya realized the scope of what they were asking. You want me to become a double agent, to pretend I'm sympathetic to these foreign recruitment efforts while actually helping you identify and flip their targets. We want you to prevent talented Americans from becoming unwitting assets of foreign intelligence services, Dr. Rodriguez corrected, the same way you prevented yourself from walking down that path. Maya thought about her own recent experiences. The recruitment attempts from foreign intelligence had been subtle but persistent. They had offered her everything American tech companies had denied: respect, recognition, substantial compensation, and challenging work. If she hadn't been alerted to their true nature, she might have seriously considered their offers. "There's something else," Agent Morrison said quietly. "We've received intelligence that foreign services are planning a coordinated campaign to recruit American cybersecurity professionals who will be attending the upcoming DEF CON conference in Las Vegas. They're specifically targeting individuals who've been marginalized by traditional hiring practices." DEF CON was the largest hacker convention in the world, attended by thousands of cybersecurity professionals, researchers, and enthusiasts. It was also a prime hunting ground for intelligence agencies looking to recruit new assets. "They're going to be looking for people like me," Maya said. "People exactly like you," Colonel Hayes confirmed, "and we need you there to identify their recruiters, understand their methods, and help us protect potential targets." Maya considered the implications. Going to DEF CON as an undercover FBI consultant would mean walking directly into a foreign intelligence operation, pretending to be a potential recruitment target, while actually working to disrupt their activities. "What kind of backup would I have?" Maya asked. Mr. Patterson smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Maya, you'll have the entire weight of the American intelligence community behind you. But more importantly, you'll be helping to fix the system that created this vulnerability in the first place." Dr. Rodriguez pulled out a thick folder and placed it in front of Maya. "These are policy recommendations that you've helped us develop over the past 6 months. Changes to government hiring practices, new partnerships with non-traditional educational institutions, and diversity initiatives specifically designed to identify and recruit overlooked talent before foreign services can exploit them." Maya opened the folder and found herself looking at comprehensive plans to transform how the American government recruited cybersecurity professionals. The recommendations addressed everything from bias in technical interviews to partnerships with community colleges and minority-serving institutions. "If this mission succeeds," Agent Morrison said, "we'll have the political support needed to implement these changes across the entire federal cybersecurity apparatus. You won't just be preventing recruitment by hostile actors. You'll be helping to ensure that future Maya Chens don't fall through the cracks." Maya closed the folder and looked around the room at the assembled intelligence professionals. 6 months ago, these same agencies had been ready to prosecute her for exposing their vulnerabilities. Now they were asking her to help fix the systemic problems that had created those vulnerabilities in the first place. "When do I leave for Las Vegas?" Maya asked. Colonel Hayes checked her watch. "Your flight leaves in 6 hours. Welcome to Operation Digital Diversity." The Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas buzzed with the controlled chaos of DEF CON 31. Maya walked through the packed corridors wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, her FBI-issued surveillance equipment disguised as standard conference gear. Around her, thousands of hackers, researchers, and cybersecurity professionals engaged in the annual ritual of sharing knowledge, competing in challenges, and networking in ways that would reshape the industry for the coming year. Maya's mission was elegant in its simplicity: identify foreign intelligence recruiters, document their methods, and help protect their targets. But after 3 days of careful observation, she had discovered something far more sophisticated than anyone had anticipated. The foreign operatives weren't operating booths or hosting obvious recruiting events. Instead, they had embedded themselves into the conference's social fabric, posing as legitimate tech company representatives, venture capitalists, and research institute directors. They were hosting parties, sponsoring technical talks, and organizing wacky mentorship opportunities that served as screening mechanisms for potential assets. Maya's earpiece crackled with Agent Bradley's voice from the FBI's mobile command center. "Maya, we've got eyes on your target." Dr. Washington just entered the poker room with the woman calling herself Lisa Kim from Soltech Ventures. Maya made her way through the casino floor toward the designated meeting location. Dr. Kevin Washington looked exactly like his photos. A thin, nervous man in his early 30s who carried himself with the particular tension of someone who had been disappointed by institutions too many times. Lisa Kim was everything Maya had expected from a professional intelligence operative: polished, charming, and absolutely convincing in her role as a technology investor. Maya activated the recording function on her surveillance equipment and approached their table. "Excuse me, are you Dr. Washington? I heard your presentation on drone communication protocols yesterday. Absolutely brilliant work." Washington looked up, clearly pleased to be recognized. "Thank you. I don't think we've met." "Maya Chen," she said, extending her hand. I'm a cybersecurity consultant. Your research on frequency-hopping vulnerabilities was exactly what I've been looking for in my own work. Lisa Kim's eyes sharpened with interest. Ms. Chen, what kind of consulting work do you do? Maya had rehearsed this moment dozens of times. I specialize in identifying security vulnerabilities that traditional auditing firms miss. I find that the best insights come from understanding systems from unconventional angles. Fascinating, Lisa replied. Are you currently working with any particular organizations? I'm between contracts right now, Maya lied smoothly. The American tech industry has been challenging to navigate for someone with my background. Lisa Kim's expression transformed into one of sympathetic understanding. I completely understand. Dr. Washington and I were just discussing similar frustrations. Perhaps you'd both be interested in learning about some opportunities we're developing for talented individuals who've been overlooked by traditional employers. Maya felt her pulse quicken. This was exactly the recruitment approach that the FBI had predicted. What kind of opportunities? Soltech Ventures is launching a new research initiative focused on identifying and addressing cybersecurity vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure systems, Lisa explained. We're looking for researchers who aren't constrained by conventional thinking or institutional biases. Dr. Washington leaned forward eagerly. Ms. Kim was just explaining how they value academic freedom and encourage researchers to publish their findings without bureaucratic interference. Maya recognized the trap immediately. Foreign intelligence services were offering these researchers exactly what American institutions had denied them: freedom, recognition, and support for their work. The fact that this work would ultimately serve hostile interests was carefully hidden behind legitimate-sounding academic language. That sounds incredible, Maya said. What would the research focus involve? Lisa Kim pulled out a tablet and showed them a presentation about Soltech Ventures' Critical Infrastructure Security Assessment Program. The slides were professionally designed and filled with technical jargon that sounded impressive but was deliberately vague about specific objectives. We're particularly interested in transportation systems, power grid vulnerabilities, and communication network security, Lisa explained. Dr. Washington's expertise in drone communications would be invaluable, and Ms. Chen's unconventional background would bring fresh perspectives to traditional security challenges. Maya's earpiece crackled again. Maya, we've identified 3 other recruitment teams operating similar approaches throughout the conference. You're looking at a coordinated intelligence operation targeting at least 20 American cybersecurity professionals. Maya realized that stopping Lisa Kim wouldn't be enough. They needed to expose the entire operation and demonstrate to the cybersecurity community how foreign intelligence services were exploiting American institutional failures. Ms. Kim, Maya said carefully, this all sounds very promising, but I have to ask, have you heard about the recent Pentagon security demonstration? The one where a young woman exposed major vulnerabilities in government systems? Lisa Kim's composure flickered for just a moment. Yes, that was quite remarkable, though perhaps reckless. I disagree, Maya replied. I think it was brilliant. Someone finally had the courage to show that American cybersecurity isn't as robust as officials claim. It makes me wonder what other vulnerabilities exist in our critical systems. Dr. Washington nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. That's the kind of research that should be celebrated, not criminalized. American institutions are so afraid of being embarrassed that they suppress legitimate security research. Maya saw her opening. Actually, I should probably mention something. I was that woman who hacked the Pentagon. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Dr. Washington's eyes widened in recognition and admiration. Lisa Kim's professional mask slipped entirely, revealing calculating intelligence beneath the friendly exterior. Ms. Chen, Lisa said slowly, that's quite a revelation. Your demonstration was very educational. Thank you, Maya replied. And I have to say, your recruitment pitch is also quite educational, especially for someone who's been studying foreign intelligence operations targeting American cybersecurity professionals. Lisa Kim's hand moved almost imperceptibly toward her purse, but Maya was faster. She pulled out her FBI credentials and placed them on the table. Dr. Washington, meet Special Agent Lisa Kim of the Chinese Ministry of State Security. Agent Kim, meet Special Consultant Maya Chen of the FBI Cyber Division. Dr. Washington looked back and forth between them in confusion and growing horror. What's happening here? Dr. Washington, Maya said gently, You're being recruited by foreign intelligence. The research opportunities Ms. Kim described, they're designed to extract information about American defense systems that would ultimately be used against us. Lisa Kim remained calm, but Maya could see her mind working rapidly to assess escape routes and damage control options. Ms. Chen, you're making very serious accusations without evidence. Maya pulled out her phone and played back the conversation they had just recorded. Lisa Kim's voice came through clearly as she described Soltech Ventures' interest in, quote, transportation systems, power grid vulnerabilities, and communication network security. Language that any cybersecurity professional would recognize as targeting critical infrastructure. Dr. Washington, Maya continued, your drone communication research is exactly the kind of work that foreign intelligence services need to develop countermeasures against American military technology. They've been systematically identifying and recruiting talented researchers who've been excluded from legitimate defense work. Dr. Washington slumped in his chair as the implications sank in. They were going to use my research to attack American systems? Not attack, Maya corrected. Defend against, which is actually worse from a strategic perspective. You would have been helping them neutralize America's technological advantages. Lisa Kim stood smoothly. This has been a fascinating conversation, but I think it's time for me to leave. Actually, Maya said, I think it's time for you to stay. She spoke into her microphone. Bradley, we're ready for pickup in the poker room. Within minutes, FBI agents had quietly surrounded their table. Lisa Kim was led away with professional efficiency, while Dr. Washington sat in stunned silence. Dr. Washington, Maya said, after the commotion had died down, you're not in trouble. You're a victim of a sophisticated intelligence operation that exploited legitimate grievances about bias in American hiring practices. But I was actually considering their offer, he whispered. Of course you were, Maya replied. They offered you everything that American institutions denied you. That's not your failure. It's ours. Maya pulled out a business card and handed it to him. Dr. Washington, would you be interested in a consulting position with the Department of Defense? We're launching a new initiative to identify and recruit cybersecurity talent that's been overlooked by traditional channels. Your drone communication expertise would be invaluable for protecting American systems, rather than compromising them. 3 hours later, Maya stood on the balcony of her hotel room, looking out at the Las Vegas Strip while she debriefed with Agent Morrison via secure video call. Maya, the operation was a complete success, Morrison reported. We've identified and disrupted 12 separate recruitment operations targeting American cybersecurity professionals. More importantly, we've documented their methods and can now train other agencies to recognize similar approaches. What happened to Dr. Washington? Maya asked. He's agreed to work with us as a consultant while we investigate how many other researchers might have been targeted. And Maya? The policy changes you recommended have been approved. We're implementing comprehensive reforms to government cybersecurity recruitment, starting with partnerships with community colleges and minority-serving institutions. Maya smiled. So we're actually going to fix the system instead of just complaining about it? We're going to try, Morrison replied. And it's largely because of what you started with your Pentagon demonstration. Sometimes you have to break something before you can fix it properly. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of a packed auditorium at Carnegie Mellon University, delivering a keynote address about cybersecurity careers to an audience that looked remarkably different from traditional tech conferences. The crowd included students from community colleges, career changers from non-technical backgrounds, and young professionals who didn't fit the industry's conventional mold. They said I didn't know computers, Maya began, looking out at the diverse faces in the audience. They said I wasn't suited for technical work. They said I should consider more appropriate career paths. They were wrong about me, and they're probably wrong about some of you too. She paused, remembering her own journey from overlooked student to FBI consultant to cybersecurity reform advocate. But here's the thing. Proving them wrong isn't enough. We need to change the system that allows talented people to be overlooked in the first place. Because when we exclude people based on bias rather than ability, we don't just harm individuals, we harm national security. Maya clicked to her final slide, which showed statistics about the FBI's new recruitment program, a 400% increase in applications from underrepresented groups, a 60% improvement in identifying previously unknown vulnerabilities, and a dramatic reduction in successful foreign intelligence recruitment of American cybersecurity professionals. Change is possible, Maya concluded, but it requires all of us to challenge assumptions, question biases, and recognize that cybersecurity talent comes in forms we might not expect. The next time someone tells you that you don't belong in this field, remember that diversity isn't just a nice ideal, it's a national security imperative. The applause was thunderous. As Maya left the stage, she thought about the long journey from that computer lab in Cleveland to this moment. She had set out to prove that she belonged in cybersecurity. Instead, she had helped create a system where belonging was based on ability rather than assumptions. Sometimes the best way to hack a system is to change it from the inside. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.